In an explosive turn of events just moments ago, Keir Starmer's composure shattered as Nigel Farage stepped in to block the highly anticipated UKEU summit. The political drama escalated to unprecedented levels when Farage held an urgent, secretive meeting with King Charles himself, an intervention shaking the very foundations of British politics. What does this mean for Starmer's leadership, and how will this royal involvement change the game? The nation is on edge, and the fallout could be catastrophic. Stay with us as we unravel every shocking detail. For weeks, the UKEU summit was being hailed as the critical moment for Britain's post-Brexit future, promising answers, new deals, and a fresh start to the strained relationship. Keir Starmer, desperate to regain control and prove his leadership, had invested heavily in this meeting. Public expectations were high, and his political rivals were watching closely. But beneath the surface, tensions simmered, and not everyone was on board with the summit's direction. Nigel Farage, the veteran Brexit firebrand, had repeatedly voiced his opposition to any perceived compromises with Brussels. His relentless push for a harder stance against the EU made him a hero to many on the right, but a thorn in the side of Starmer's Labour Party. Behind closed doors, Farage was quietly mobilising forces, determined to disrupt what he saw as a dangerous path to surrender. Then came the bombshell, an urgent, unprecedented meeting between Nigel Farage and King Charles. This was no ordinary political manoeuvre. The monarch's involvement in such a divisive issue is virtually unheard of in modern times, and the secrecy surrounding their discussion has only added fuel to the fire. Rumours swirl that Farage presented a stark warning directly to the king, outlining the risks of any deal that might undermine Britain's sovereignty. Meanwhile, Starmer's team scrambled, unaware of the royal intervention until it was too late. When news broke that Farage had effectively blocked the summit, Starmer's reaction was explosive. In private, sources say he snapped, showing frustration and fury rarely seen from the usually composed Labour leader. The political landscape suddenly shifted, and what was supposed to be a unifying moment turned into a battlefield. As the public waits anxiously for updates, questions mount. How will Starmer recover from this setback? What exactly was said in that secret meeting? And could this royal interference signal a deeper crisis for the UK government? The next hours and days promise to be among the most volatile in recent British history. The aftermath of Nigel Farage's unprecedented move to block the UKEU summit has sent shockwaves through British politics, leaving Keir Starmer scrambling to contain the fallout. For a leader already struggling with internal dissent and waning public support, this incident has exposed just how fragile his grip on power has become. Starmer's carefully crafted image as a steady and competent alternative to the Conservative government has taken a serious hit. The silence that followed Farage's meeting with King Charles was deafening, signalling a deeper power struggle playing out behind the scenes. As details of the secret meeting leaked, the political elite found themselves at a crossroads, uncertain of the monarchy's role in this explosive crisis. Farage's intervention was not simply a political stunt, it was a calculated move that leveraged centuries-old power structures to directly influence the future of the United Kingdom. By bringing King Charles into the fray, Farage effectively escalated the conflict from parliamentary bickering to a constitutional challenge. This has reignited fierce debates about the limits of royal influence in modern Britain and the delicate balance between monarchy and democracy. Many analysts warn that this move could set a dangerous precedent, undermining the very foundations of the UK's political system. Meanwhile, inside Labour's ranks, tension has reached a boiling point. Starmer's advisers reportedly warned him about Farage's growing influence, but few expected such a bold interference at this stage. Some MPs question whether Starmer has the resolve or strategic acumen to withstand this challenge. The whispers of discontent are growing louder, with factions within Labour already positioning themselves for a potential leadership battle. The shadow of Brexit continues to haunt Starmer's party, and Farage's success in derailing the summit has emboldened hardline Eurosceptics, who view Starmer as weak and indecisive. Public reaction has been equally intense. Supporters of Farage see his meeting with King Charles as a triumph of patriotism and courage, a necessary step to defend British sovereignty against what they perceive as creeping EU control. In contrast, many Labour supporters and moderates view the intervention as a dangerous overreach that threatens democratic norms. The media is divided, with some outlets portraying Farage as a hero and others warning of a constitutional crisis in the making. The polarisation is palpable, and the public mood is volatile, leaving the UK on edge. As the political establishment reels from this shock, the Conservative government watches closely, calculating its next moves. While Boris Johnson's party remains fractured, the turmoil within Labour presents a window of opportunity. Some Tory strategists believe that the chaos caused by Farage's actions could hasten Starmer's downfall, clearing the path for a renewed Conservative resurgence. Yet, the unpredictability of royal involvement adds an extra layer of uncertainty to an already fragile political landscape. Beyond politics, this crisis raises profound questions about the future of the UK's relationship with the European Union. The blocked summit was expected to set the tone for upcoming trade negotiations, security cooperation, and immigration policies. With Farage's intervention halting progress, both sides now face a dangerous stalemate. The EU has expressed frustration and disappointment, warning that British instability threatens the broader European project. Diplomatic channels are strained, and trust is eroding rapidly. For ordinary citizens, the consequences could be severe, impacting everything from jobs to border controls. In the midst of this turmoil, King Charles remains an enigmatic figure. Traditionally seen as a unifying symbol above politics, his secret meeting with Farage has shattered that image, thrusting the monarch into the heart of a political storm. Royal commentators speculate on whether the king acted out of genuine concern for the country's future or was swayed by Farage's arguments. Whatever the case, the decision to engage in such a high-stakes meeting risks alienating sections of the public and political class alike. The days ahead promise even more drama as the UK grapples with this unprecedented crisis. Starmer must now navigate a minefield of internal party challenges, public opinion battles, and constitutional questions that threaten to engulf the entire government. Farage's bold move has changed the rules of the game, and the nation holds its breath, waiting to see who will emerge victorious in this high-stakes showdown. The UK stands at a crossroads, and the political fallout from this explosive episode will reverberate for years to come. The secret meeting between Nigel Farage and King Charles was not just a spontaneous confrontation, it was the culmination of months of escalating tensions and careful planning. Farage, long known for his relentless Euroscepticism and defiant stance against the political establishment, seized this moment to leverage the monarchy's symbolic authority in a way never seen before in recent British history. The urgency behind this meeting was driven by a deep fear among Farage and his allies that the upcoming UKEU summit would solidify ties with Brussels in a manner they viewed as compromising Britain's hard-won sovereignty. Farage's intervention aimed to disrupt what he believed was a looming capitulation by the government and opposition alike. In the weeks leading up to the summit, whispers of discontent had been growing louder in political corridors and backroom meetings. Farage's supporters, emboldened by his rising profile and the public's growing scepticism towards Brussels, pushed for radical action. The summit was expected to mark a critical step in post-Brexit negotiations, covering issues from trade tariffs to security cooperation, yet many on the Eurosceptic right viewed the entire process as a betrayal. Farage's move to involve King Charles was a masterstroke, exploiting the traditional respect and influence commanded by the monarchy to force a pause on proceedings that could alter the UK's future relationship with the EU irreversibly. The gravity of involving the monarch cannot be overstated. King Charles, bound by centuries of constitutional precedent to remain politically neutral, had never before been publicly linked to such direct political interference. Yet the urgency conveyed by Farage appeared to compel the king to listen. Reports suggest the conversation was intense, with Farage warning of what he described as the slow erosion of British independence. This secret meeting has since become a flashpoint in debates over the monarchy's role in the 21st century, challenging long-held assumptions about its impartiality and influence. Meanwhile, Starmer's camp was blindsided by the revelation. While the Labour leader had been focused on rebuilding his party and presenting a united front against the Conservatives, this unexpected development forced him onto the defensive. Advisers quickly scrambled to contain the damage, emphasising that the summit blockage was an undemocratic obstruction that undermined national interests. Yet, the fact that Farage could access the king in such a manner raised troubling questions about the access and influence wielded by political outsiders. Farage's supporters argue that their leader acted in the best interest of the country, protecting Britain from a dangerous slide back into EU bureaucracy. They view the king's willingness to engage as a sign that the monarchy too harbours concerns about the direction of current policies. For them, this was a bold stand against the establishment consensus that threatens national sovereignty. This narrative has resonated strongly with a significant portion of the public, fueling protests and rallies demanding greater political accountability and a reassertion of British independence. On the other hand, critics warn that this episode risks destabilising the constitutional framework that has maintained peace and order in the UK for centuries. The mixing of monarchy with active political manoeuvring threatens to erode public trust and ignite partisan divisions. Legal experts debate whether such involvement breaches constitutional conventions and whether safeguards are needed to prevent a recurrence. The government has called for calm and respect for democratic processes, yet the damage to political norms may already be done. Internationally, the meeting sent a ripple of concern across European capitals. The EU leadership, already wary of the UK's unpredictable stance post-Brexit, viewed this disruption as a sign of deep internal instability. Diplomats warn that this episode complicates efforts to reach cooperative agreements on trade, security and migration. Some fear that if the UK cannot present a unified front, it risks isolation on the world stage, jeopardising economic growth and geopolitical influence. Within the monarchy, opinions appear divided. While King Charles has historically been viewed as a progressive figure supportive of modernising the institution, this intervention has sparked debate among royal advisers about the boundaries of royal engagement in politics. Some see this as a necessary action to preserve national stability, while others caution that it undermines the apolitical nature of the crown. The situation remains fluid, with courtiers reportedly urging discretion while managing the public fallout. As the UK processes the implications of this extraordinary meeting, attention turns to what happens next. Will the summit proceed as planned, or will the blockage hold, forcing renegotiations and political upheaval? How will Starmer respond to regain control and restore confidence within his party and the electorate? And crucially, what will be the lasting impact on the monarchy's role in British politics? These questions dominate headlines and conversations, reflecting a nation caught in a moment of profound uncertainty. The secret meeting has fundamentally altered the political landscape. Farage's gamble to involve the king has shifted power dynamics, forcing politicians, institutions and citizens alike to confront difficult truths about leadership, sovereignty and democracy. The consequences of this episode will shape the UK's path forward in the years to come, making it one of the most significant political crises of recent memory. This shocking power play isn't just political theatre for those in Westminster. It affects every citizen in the UK. The very foundation of our democracy and the future direction of our nation hang in the balance. Nigel Farage's unprecedented move to block the UKEU summit by leveraging a secret meeting with King Charles has exposed fractures in the system that demand your attention. This is not a moment to be passive or indifferent. Now more than ever, the British public must engage, question, and hold their leaders accountable. The upcoming days and weeks will be critical. The government and opposition parties will respond, strategies will shift, and decisions made behind closed doors will shape our nation's sovereignty, economy, and place on the global stage. Your voice matters in this fight for the country's future. Stay informed, follow the developments closely, and participate in the democratic process. Whether that means contacting your local representatives, joining peaceful demonstrations, or simply discussing these vital issues with friends and family. Political upheaval often feels distant from daily life, but the fallout from this crisis could affect jobs, trade, and national security. The UK-EU relationship governs everything from imports and exports to security cooperation and travel. If this summit remains blocked, uncertainty will grow, risking economic damage and political instability. That means your livelihood could be on the line. Moreover, the involvement of the monarchy in such a contentious political manoeuvre raises profound questions about the role of tradition and authority in modern Britain. It challenges how much power unelected figures should wield behind the scenes. Citizens must demand transparency and safeguards to ensure our democratic values are protected from shadowy interference. The next phase of this crisis will be decisive. Will political leaders put aside their differences to find a path forward that respects the will of the people? Or will Britain plunge deeper into chaos as factions fight for control? Only by staying engaged and holding our politicians accountable can we steer the country away from division and toward unity and progress. This is a defining moment for Britain's democracy. Do not let it pass without making your voice heard. Follow the news closely. Share updates with your network. Support the causes that align with your values. And remember, democracy works only when people participate. The future of the UK is in your hands.